Boy, I want to talk to you about a sensitive subject. Seriously, I'm actually not being flippant here. This is is it in the show notes? Maybe, yeah, I think it is. If you text Eric to 33777, Yale University used a commercial satellite. You know, you can rent out satellites now, and you can fly them over areas of the world and get them to take high-resolution pictures. Yale University did that in northern Darfur in Sudan. There's been a massacre. You can see it for yourself. It's not AI. I'm not making it up. If you subscribe to the show notes, you got the link. You can see the blood from space. I'm looking at an image from a satellite of El Fasher, north of Darfur. Shows the presence. This is the description from the Yale School of Public Health. Imagery collected over the Daraja Ola neighborhood in El Fasher on the 27th of October, 2025, so 2 days ago. Shows the presence of clusters of objects, ground discoloration, and light technical vehicles. The objects within the clusters measure between 1.5 meters to 2 meters in length. A group of light technical vehicles appear to be blocking the road near where what appears to be red discoloration on the ground. One cluster of objects is flanked by 3 light technical vehicles. I know what I'm looking at. Y'all, I'm looking at satellite images of piles of bodies on the ground. These are piles of bodies pinned in by vehicles. And if you didn't know they were piles of bodies, all you need to do is look at the red lakes. Those are pools of blood on the ground. This is happening 2 days ago. Now, I want to raise this issue because, George Clooney did an advertisement for Nespresso in Japan. And he was an actor of his prominence doing a Nespresso coffee machine ad in Japan, and people asked him why. You know what his answer was? It gave him the money to buy a satellite to park over Sudan to survey the massacres that were happening so that he could raise international awareness. Now, I vehemently disagree with his politics as much as he disagrees with mine, but he was one of the first prominent Americans to get people to pay attention to the massacres happening in Darfur. And here we now have a satellite image, a high-resolution satellite image from Yale School of Public Health, and you can see the bodies on the ground in the pool of blood from 2 days ago, where the blood is soaking into the desert sand. In Nigeria, Christians are being slaughtered. 100,000 plus Christians are being slaughtered by Islamic radicals who are taking over that country. You see, in Nigeria, it was a mostly Christian country, and the Muslim invaders came in out of the desert. They were radicalized by ISIS and Al Qaeda, and instead of trying to have democracy, they just started murdering the Christians. And their rationale has been that if they eliminate the Christians, the Muslims will be a majority and they'll be able to win elections that way. And the Muslim politicians turned a blind eye to what was going on. And hundreds of thousands of people are being murdered in Nigeria because of their faith. And you have Qatar, which pays a lot of pundits in the United States and Al Jazeera is, you will note, not covering this. In fact, Al Jazeera is running stories that it's not really happening, but we have the graphic images, we have the evidence, we have the testimony, we have lots of eyewitnesses, including a Catholic priest who was gunned down in one country over in Niger, they want you to say. An American missionary was abducted by suspected jihadists and is still missing. This is from 2 days ago. Kevin Rideout was taken from his home in Niger's capital in the middle of the night last week in a Toyota Corolla by 3 armed suspected jihadists. Rideout's a pilot for the Evangelical Missionary Agency serving in mission. He was taken hostage from the capital city less than 100 yards from the presidential palace. His cell phone last placed him in an area to be considered a sanctuary for groups affiliated with ISIS. That was 6 days ago. I need to make a political point, and this is going to turn some of you off, and it's a partisan point. And I don't mean it to be a partisan point. I swear to you, it is the truth. And I need you to know it's the truth. And I'm not, it sounds like a partisan point, and it's not a partisan point. It's a very real point. But if you're a Democrat, you're not going to like it. And I don't mean to offend you. I don't mean for you to flip that little switch where you tune out everything I say, because it actually is a real point. When Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, in order to divert the American military attention, one of the strategies that Vladimir Putin employed was to stir up trouble in the Sahel region of Africa. That is the Sahara region of Africa, the nations that abut the Sahara. Because the United States has invested a lot of time over a lot of years building up military alliances with countries in Africa to be able to push out the Islamic radicals, Al Qaeda and ISIS. One of the ways that ISIS and Al Qaeda fund their terrorism is they poach animals like elephants and rhinoceroses, and they sell the ivory on the black market in southern Africa, and then they fund the operations in the Sahel. Or in the Sahel, they go in and they take over mines and they steal diamonds and gold and precious metals, and they sell them on the black market. They go into archaeological sites and they wipe out precious materials and they sell them on the black market to collectors, and they fund their ability to wage war. And what the United States had done is we built up alliances with Niger and with Nigeria and with Burkina Faso and a number of countries that swept across the Sahel, this area of northern Africa and West Africa that stretches across with the Sahara. And so Vladimir Putin used the mercenary group. Now, what do you call them? Now I forget the name. You know the mercenary group from the Russia that tried to launch the coup, and he killed their leader, and he exiled them to West Africa, the leaders of this group, and has had them doing a number of coups in these West African countries. And in the process of overthrowing governments that were friendly to the United States, they helped install governments, the Wagner Group, thank you. The Wagner Group helped install governments that would cave to the Islamic radicals. I'm not making any of this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. I know this. I've covered this. You know this. You've heard these stories. The Wagner Group had a systemic series of coups through West Africa to destabilize pro-Western governments. So once they were gone, ISIS would be welcomed in. Why? Because Vladimir Putin reasoned that if the United States was tied up undoing the Wagner Group's damage in West Africa and the Sahel, they would be distracted and not be fully engaged in Ukraine. Well, what Vladimir Putin apparently took him too long to realize is that Joe Biden had dementia, so he was going to be distracted from everything anyway. And progressives in the Biden administration, and again, this is true, it's not partisan, it's just truth. The progressives within the Biden administration have so long descended into woke, progressive, critical race theory consciousness, that when people started complaining about the extermination of Christians in Western Africa, their original thinking was that, well, it's the colonizers who are being punished by the colonized. And it's just, this is not a clash of religions. It's a clash of cultures, and the predominant local culture is taking over, except what they miss is that these parts of Africa were actually Christianized, and it was the Islamic radicals who were the colonizers. Just as northern Africa was actually Christian until Muhammad invaded and killed all the Christians, Augustine was a black man from northern Africa. And the critical race theory poison mind of the progressive academics at the Biden State Department missed all of this, and they've let West Africa go to hell in a handbasket. And now going all the way over to Sudan, where they haven't wanted to involve themselves, because by claiming it was a religious conflict, they could interpret it as colonizer colonized. And, those Christians are all a bunch of colonizers. Never mind that Christianity in Ethiopia is about the earliest founding area of Christianity in the Bible, when you had, Philip headed back to Ethiopia, or Philip encountering the guy headed back to Ethiopia and converted him. Took Christianity back to Ethiopia. Ethiopia is literally one of the original places on planet Earth where Christianity first spread, well before Islam, and yet the progressives interpret Christianity as a religion of the colonizer and Islam as a religion of the colonized, and so they've completely upended this part of the world, and now you've got a Holocaust happening all over Africa. You've got genocide happening, and all of these people are focused on a genocide in Gaza that wasn't actually happening, and they've ignored the murders, the mass murders of people in Africa. And why does this affect you and me? Because there are these isolationists on the right now who say we should just leave it all alone, except you can't. You can't leave it alone, because what's happening is ISIS is setting up hotbeds of activity to train terrorists to make it about you. They will come here eventually. That is why the Bush administration and the Obama administration and the Trump administration all agreed. Think about this. The Obama administration agreed with the Trump administration, agreed with the Bush administration, that you had to contain the Islamic radicals in Africa. It was an agreement across ideologies until the Biden administration came in and the progressives put in place, the Elizabeth Warren supporters and the Bernie Sanders supporters, who were isolated from the from the Obama team, came in and decided, no, Christians are colonizers, Muslims are colonized, and now the colonized are having their way with the colonizers. Leave it all alone. Let's get out of there. And the whole place went belly up. And now you have a massive influx of Islamic radicals committing genocide. And we have satellite photos from Darfur from 2 days ago. You can see the bodies on the ground. You can see the pools of blood from outer space. That's how many people were killed in Darfur. In Niger, an American citizen has gone missing at the hands of Islamic radicals. In Nigeria, over 100,000 Christians have been murdered. And do you hear it on CNN? Of course not. MSNBC? No. What do you hear about? You hear about the slaughter of the people of Gaza that never actually happened, that was a figment of the imagination of people who support terrorists. People are being murdered. But it goes beyond that, and this is where it affects you and me. ISIS and Al Qaeda are creeping back out of the shadows and rebuilding. Do not think they will not come for you and me. They want to come for you and me. And if we don't deal with them there, we will deal with them here. And even the Trump administration and the Obama administration and the Bush administration understood that you must contain them there. And when Biden got in office, the progressives in his administration, their arrogance, they allowed them to be outgunned and outmaneuvered by the Wagner Group and the Russians, who destabilized West African governments and emboldened the Islamic radicals. And we're going to have to deal with them because they want your children dead, and they're laying the groundwork for Islamic states in Africa that will then turn to you and me and our children if we don't recontain them. This is a failure of the Biden administration. No one has ever wanted to hold his team accountable for that. These hundreds of thousands of people are being murdered over there.